Now, do you want the skills and the techniques to design negative space logos just like this? Follow along, because today I'm going to give you the rundown of why negative space logos are useful and also some tips on how to design your very own negative space logo designs. Logo designs that use negative space are not only clever and contemporary, but they can be very effective as logo marks. So today we're going to first take a look at why negative space logo designs are so awesome and effective. Then we're going to move on to the various different types of negative space logo, because yes, there are actually different categories of logos that utilize negative space. And then finally, I'm going to dish out some top tips on generating your very own negative space logo designs. So why go for a negative space logo? I'd like to mention briefly that not every single logo design you make should be negative space orientated. The logo design should be fitting to the brand itself. What are the upshots of using negative space approach to a logo design? Now firstly, they are hugely memorable. Consumers will talk about and discuss the optical illusion within a logo or a hidden message. It creates a sense of uniqueness, and this sticks in the mind of the audience, which is one of the main uses of a logo. Now secondly, by nature a negative space logo is simplistic, that is if it's done correctly. Simplicity is always a sure winner in regard for logo designing, and keeping a logo simple should be a high priority when embarking on a logo project. And lastly, a logo with negative space stands out in a sea of other various designs. Standing out for the right reasons is another key objective for logo designs. So those are the main reasons for incorporating the use of negative space. But let's now take a look at the different categories of negative space logos. Double entendre might be the most popular of the negative space logo designs, as these blend together negative space and symbols to make a standard optical illusion where the logo can be seen in two different lights. These can be very clever, and they really do let the audience interact with the logo design itself, as it's really thought-provoking and interesting. Now remember, later I'm going to offer tips on designing your very own negative space designs. But moving on to the second group of logos, we have the typographic options. This is where cleverly using negative space within a strictly typographic logo can form a letter or multiple letters that are not actually represented by filled shapes. Rather, the negative space actually creates those letters. These can turn a somewhat bland line of logo type into a very interesting and captivating design when done correctly. The third group of designs is the hidden image logo. These are the most clever and mysterious of the negative space logos, with the most notorious of them being probably the Toblerone logo. And within the logo itself, you can see a bear hidden in the mountain, which represents the birthplace of their company, Bern. The final group of logo designs that use negative space is the enclosed logo. These use negative space as a border in combination with images and also combine positive space to create the appearance of a full image, while keeping the design simple. Some of the negative space logos that you see can technically belong in multiple different categories, but these are the basic outlines for them as a whole. And now you know why such logos are useful and the different kinds of them. It's time to make your very own negative space logo design. Now firstly, you should question whether or not a logo that utilizes negative space is ideal for the brand or the company. If your design is just for fun, then obviously this doesn't matter to you, but when designing for a client, you need to keep in mind the brand message and adhere to the brief. This is paramount, and I can't emphasize this enough, guys. But if you feel a logo with negative space could work, I would firstly suggest that going through the usual design process that I always talk about, And that involves researching and gathering information on the brand entity, their audience, and also the industry of work. But yeah, once you start to generate ideas for the logo, you should have negative space in mind the entire time. Now we tend to focus on the positive space, but if you keep reminding yourself and be mindful of negative space, this opens up the doors in your thinking and the creative mind for potential ideas to walk in. You don't want to try and smash some negative space into your logo in the later stages of the process, so try to keep it in mind while the design is in infancy and the beginning of everything coming together. Now when working in Illustrator or even on paper, give yourself a lot of room and a lot of negative space to work on. This means that you shouldn't crowd your workspace, and you should have a large canvas or a sheet of paper with a lot of negative space already on it. This will help to remind you of negative space throughout the design process, and will give your design room to breathe. A really handy tip in Illustrator is that instead of going ahead and using the minus front operation on say 2 shapes to make a cutout, either turn one object into white so it effectively acts like negative space, and this will help prevent you committing to a destructive operation such as the Pathfinder function. Now alternatively, you can use a compound shape, so then you can move around the shapes and negative space freely. One neat way to utilize negative space for a logo concept is to add in the company's product. So for example, a camera brand logo could incorporate the use of a camera symbol somewhere. And like the Mr. Cuts logo here, which is for a barber's, the hair scissors form a mustache and also glasses and eyes. That's very clever indeed. Now for a typographic approach, go ahead and outline the text and then ungroup it all and play around with the lettering spacing and arrangement. You can also change one letter to white to match the artboard background as we did before, and see how that works. But one of the most notorious examples is the FedEx logo that actually has an arrow within the logo simply by merging together X and E. Another good way to approach a logo of negative space is to marry together a letter, say from the company's name, and then take a relevant image of that company and make it represent some negative space within the letter. This is a very neat and a simple way to do things as well. But yeah, the key thing is to have negative space firmly in your mind from the start of the design process, but also make sure the brand that you're working with can effectively take on a negative space logo and that it's relevant and useful. Don't lose sight of what a logo should do for a company. So there is today's walkthrough guide on negative space logos. Let me know down in the comment section below if you learned something, and also remember to subscribe to Satori Graphics for weekly design content. Also turn on the bell notifications so you never miss an upload from me on my channel. And if you do want to help out my channel, share my content on social media or to a friend or to a fellow designer. And make sure to have a great day, and until next time, design your future today. Peace.